All right, welcome back to the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast. It's Sunday night. I'm here with Jay. We're going over MLB for the Monday night main slate. Jay, what's going on, man?
How's it going, Bryan? Just enjoyed a glorious day full of baseball. We got some playoff basketball. I hope baseball went well for you because the Hornets game was pretty rough.
Yeah, it's not a great last little bit of my life when it comes to basketball. I'm obviously a Hornets fan. I'm a Carolina fan, which you guys probably know about if you're avid listeners. I hate Duke, so and I really don't like the Warriors. So the last 2 years have been very not great for me basketball wise. But
that's rough. I mean, it's only game one. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think they still have a fine chance, but
I mean, Miami's not going to hit like 90% of their shots every game. I mean, granted, the defense for the Hornets was pretty awful, but Miami's also not going to get that hot every game.
So. Right, but it's baseball season anyways. We got a nice 7-game slate after some of these big slates.
Massive ones, yeah.
It's refreshing. So, looking forward to it. We have some nice tourneys, too, on DK. We got the $250K $3 buy-in for lower stakes, and then we got the $400K $400 buy-in for kind of higher stakes. So some nice prize pools on this smaller slate where there's probably going to be a little bit of overlay.
Isn't there a big one on Tuesday too?
Yeah, Tuesday has some big ones. I think Wednesday has a bit. The 1K is really big on, I think, 300K.
Right,
yeah. There's some good sized tournaments for. I know like a lot of people have been complaining about action and in cash games. Yeah, it's a little rough, but we still got these tournaments every night that are.
Yeah, it started a little slow, but it's been picking up, which is nice. So maybe people are just kind of moving on from basketball and over to baseball, which is good. As I said before, basketball has not treated me well. DFS was great this year, and it was FantasyLabs. Obviously, we had a good season, but personally, not so great. So I'm ready to move into the full-time baseball realm for sure.
Yeah, just get baseball every day. The dog days of summer.
I love it, to be honest. Okay, let's jump in. So we'll get into this main slate. Obviously, 7 p.m. is the main slate. There's a full day, but we're going over just the main one. The full day is not – it's just another game, right? Yeah.
Yeah, only Pete plays those slates, a true degen.
Yeah. So we're going over the 7 p.m. slate. So kind of just hitting quickly on the Vegas lines before we move on to our batters and pitchers. The top teams right now are Cincinnati is implied at 4.7, Minnesota's at 4.6, the White Sox are at 4.5. Lowest team is Philly by far at 2.8. There are some lines that haven't been released yet, so it's kind of hard to get a read. Miami, Washington, it hasn't been released. In San Francisco, Arizona, I assume that one will be fairly high scoring.
Yeah, I think so too.
On the Giant side, Robbie De La Rosa isn't going to pitch, but I still imagine that San Francisco is going to beat up on Arizona a little bit.
Yeah, there was word he was starting, and they decided after the game it's going to be Archie Bradley instead because De La Rosa threw in that 14-inning game or whatever. So, yeah, definitely monitor how those lines change in those games. But, yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of lines. There's no Coors Field on this slate, so that's always nice to get a read on these other games, kind of go outside the box a little bit instead of teed in on one game. So, I think Vegas lines combined with the small size of this slate kind of strengthen the need to go contrarian.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a theme of this podcast is going to be, and I don't necessarily want to give it away now, but we're going to talk about this a lot, is really in DFS, even more so than, which plays are the best and all that stuff. It's really each slate is very specific, and you should approach a slate differently. There's all these different heuristics that you should adopt, always pay up for pitching, all do this stuff. And you're going to read these in articles. But I really encourage people to kind of approach each slate differently because there's going to be times where it's just weird. There's great pitching, there's not great pitching, there's great hitting, not great hitting, and each slate's differently, and you shouldn't necessarily have these preconceived notions going in, and you should approach the slate with an open mind and then kind of build from there. If you can adapt your heuristics to it, then that's great. But kind of go in with an open mind and adapt your lineup and your strategy from that. Because I think that there's going to be a very particular strategy for this specific slate for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of top players kind of do that. There are some guidelines to follow, but nothing really hard. You got to loosen up some of your daily uh, rituals, looking in research and stuff, and kind of having these ideas of getting stuck in. You always pay for pitcher. You always stack teams with this amount of runs, X amount of runs, exposure, and like those are fine generally. But yeah, I think with baseball, with the variance and slate by slate, it's always so different. So.
Yeah, for sure. Because you have elite pitchers, and if those guys are going, that's great. If they're not going, you kind of have to adapt. Which will lead us right into our next segment, which is going to be the segment where we go over our pitchers. We're going to give 2 intriguing pitchers and then 1 to fade. And Jay, I'll let you go first because the first pitch you're going to mention is what we're hinting at, which kind of it's really the strategy behind the entire slate.
Yeah, Noah Syndergaard. This is something you definitely don't want to overthink for you guys playing cash games tomorrow. 10.4 K per 9 rate. Elite strikeouts. Faces the Phillies, who are projected to score just 2.8 runs, which is by far the lowest on the slate. You're really looking for significance of strikeouts. You need a high floor for your pitcher, so he really makes for one of the easier plays of the season, I would say, with starting pitcher and just given this slate.
He should have the highest ownership in cash yet so far.
Yeah, definitely. And his average fastball in 2 starts this season is 98 miles per hour. It's 1 mile per hour faster than last season's average. So, he's obviously cooking right now, and you're an absolute donkey if you fade him in cash. I want to sit your games if you do. But he's one of the easier plays I've seen in a while. So I think at the top, that's where you start and end when building your cash teams. The other pitcher that intrigues me, kind of going off of Syndergaard, we'll get into this a little bit more with strategy-wise, but Jose Fernandez, just kind of because there's nobody else I really like at pitcher too much other than Syndergaard. So, I'm going Syndergaard on cash on both sites. And then on DK, you're going to have 2. So I think it's an interesting strategy to kind of go Jose and Syndergaard in some tournaments on DK. I think you can get Fernandez at very low expected ownership. He does have the highest K per 9 on the slate. Everybody's going to be on Syndergaard. So there is upside for sure in going Jose Fernandez, a guy who has a lot of K potential. I don't love the matchup really because he's going against the best hitter in the history of baseball, Bryce Harper. But a severely discounted ownership, I'm looking at kind of a pivot off Syndergaard or in addition to Syndergaard even on DraftKings.
Yeah, I like it. And kind of what we were hinting at is it's really ugly other than Thor. Syndergaard is the premier play. And then after that, I mean, Fernandez is a great pitcher. But going against the Nationals is just a tough spot. It really is just after Syndergaard, there's no great pitchers. So I'm going to give 2 that I think are intriguing, but really, I just want to emphasize that I don't necessarily love these pitchers a whole lot. I might have some limited tournament exposure here and there. The first guy I'll mention, I actually think is fairly intriguing. Actually, is Jared Eichhoff. He's going against the Mets, who this year haven't been. The best offense, the scariest offense. So I do think there's some upside. If you're kind of looking for a pitcher that could potentially do well, Eichhoff has the second best whip, only behind Syndergaard in the slate, and also has high K upside. If you look at his advanced stats, which we have this year, really no one's touching him. He has, let's see. Yeah, he's a hard hit differential of minus 16% as compared to last year. 16% overall hard hit rate, which means that guys just in his 2 starts just haven't been able to touch him at all. So I do think there's a lot of upside there. I think if you're on a one pitcher site like FanDuel, you cannot overthink it and go him over Thor. But I do think if you're looking for that second pitcher on DraftKings, Eichhoff might be the best option. Jose is the best option talent-wise, but if you're kind of looking at best blend of talent and situation, I think Eichhoff is the guy. And the other guy that I'm going to mention because I think he's intriguing, but really only intriguing in this slate because it's so ugly, is Carlos Rodon. He's pitching against LA, against the Angels, and I don't love the spot. A lefty going against Trout and Pujols. It's not a great spot, but after really the three that we mentioned in Syndergaard, Eichhoff, and Fernandez, it's really ugly, and Rodon at least has some K upside. Like that's the only reason I'm interested.
Right.
And because like we said that we were going to mention two intriguing pitchers, and I had to get a second one. So, but really it's those three, and like I guess you can get like cute with some other ones, but I think really you stay pretty chalky with pitchers and get cute with batters tomorrow. I think is the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, give me one fade.
Yeah, rules are rules, man. My fade is just like you said, pretty much everybody else. There's just not good strikeout potential for any of these other pitchers. So I'm looking to have very high exposure to just a core of top pitchers. And like you said, go contrarian with my hitting. If I had to give a fade, though, it would be John Lackey facing the Cardinals. The Cards have the highest team WOBA out of any team on this slate. I think people will kind of have some Lackey exposure. He's looked okay, and I won't be one of them. So I guess he's my fade, along with 80% of the other pitchers.
Yeah, I hear you. My fade is going to be your guy Jose.
Yeah.
Again, I don't love it, but if we're just having to break this down analytically, he has a park factor rating, which is a rating that we have in our models, and it's park factor in a lot of those things. We have an explanation, and Bales did a video, so check that out if you want the full explanation. But it's park factor rating, but it is adjusted for handedness and stuff. So he has a park factor rating of 93, which is really good for hitters, obviously bad for pitchers. So for that reason, I think that it could get ugly for him. Again, like we're really stretching here. So I still like him as a play, but if he's going to potentially be high owned and he's going to be like the popular second pitcher on DraftKings, I'm okay with fading him in favor of like going Syndergaard and Eichhoff.
Yeah.
But it's tough. Pitcher is just real tough tomorrow, especially on DraftKings where you're trying to get that second guy other than the obvious Thor.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Enough about pitchers because it is really ugly. Let's go bats, and then we'll get hit value bats. So give me two bats that you're looking at tomorrow.
Yeah, the first hitter I'm really looking at hard is Joey Votto. He's arguably one of my top cash hitters on this slate when you factor in everything. I mean, price, safety, and whatnot. So he gets to face Jordan Lyles, who's a pitcher who really struggles to find the strike zone. Votto led the league last season with the highest walk percentage out of all qualified players. So in cash, I definitely like targeting hitters with a high enough floor. So I think that's something that's difficult in baseball due to variance. But I think with a high walk rate and a high pitcher walk rate, you kind of put the two together. And then you add in, he's a 405 WOBA against righties. The Reds are projected to score the most amount of runs on this slate. So I'm looking at Votto really hard on both DK and FD for this slate in cash. Flipping it to tournaments, a player I like a lot getting exposure to is Mike Trout. I think he has a potential on this slate, especially to kind of get overlooked in tournaments, because I think people will kind of look at Carlos Rodon and kind of see how he's pitched to start the season. He's been very good, but and I like Rodon too. Yeah, I like his upside as well. But Trout has a 417 WOBA against lefties. He's hitting in a park with the second highest park factor. So I'm basically targeting Trout due to his expected low ownership and offers similar upside to a lot of these other hitters as well.
He's also pretty good.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah. Now I like the calls. My first guy is going to be Jay Bruce. Similar thing, that reason you like Joey Votto going against Jordan Lyles, who is, like you said, just not very good at pitching sometimes. And he has a lower WOBA than Votto. He is at 322. Votto's at 405, like you said, but actually has a higher ISO versus right-handed pitchers. So he's at 241 against right-handed pitching, whereas Votto's at 207. Both still very good, both guys that you should target. But I do think that Bruce has a lot of upside. He's hitting fifth in the order. I think it's a fairly easy play. I like both of them, obviously, in cash games. And obviously, I think they're going to be a great stack. We'll get to stacking in just a little bit. But he's definitely a fairly easy play in cash and should have a lot of upside in tournaments as well. And the other guy that I like is Matt Carpenter. He's just been crushing the ball this year. I looked at his advanced stats, which, again, is something that we have this year, our advanced stats, so you can kind of see how a guy has performing the last a little bit of the season. We have it up to the last 15 games, and then or last 15 days, and take it back to the last year, so you can kind of judge how he's doing lately. And it's shown to be fairly predictive if you rate players that way. Anyway, Matt Carpenter has a 43% hard hit rate, which is just insane. He's just been crushing the ball this year, and just making a really good contact. And I think that he has a lot of upside tomorrow as well. You kind of talked about that St. Louis matchup with Lackey, but yeah, I like him as a play. Give me 2 value bats for FanDuel.
First one I'm looking at is Eduardo Nunez. The Twins, we saw them start the season off just so bad, so slow, couldn't put any runs together, so they needed a spark in their lineup. Here comes Nunez coming through big time. He started and hit leadoff the last 3 games in a row now. He has a 380 WOBA against righties. He's only 2,700 on FanDuel. Then you add in the Twins are projected to score 4.5 runs. So I definitely like getting exposure to the Twins, especially at the leadoff hitter, a position that's underpriced and offers a lot of value. So I'm looking at him in cash games. I just would advise you not to expect this insane streak he's on to really continue, but that doesn't mean he's still not good value. So another guy I'm looking at, and this is kind of only recommended if he continues to hit in the 2-hole versus a lefty again, is Austin Jackson. His lefty splits are pretty neutral. He does have slight increased power. He is just 2,500. I'm expecting him to hit in the 2-hole again. If he doesn't, then he makes for a tournament play. But if he is in the 2-hole, I'm looking at him in cash at 2,500 for the outfield position. White Sox implied team total at 4.5. I'm thinking Rollins will sit again versus a lefty here. But really the thing is a lot of managers early in the season have been shuffling their lineups a lot. It's so early in the season. They're still trying to figure things out. So a lot of teams this season especially are gravitating more and more even towards platoon players. So kind of both my value plays are dependent on lineup order. But that's a pretty significant thing to look at on a day-to-day basis. So assuming these guys are that high up in the lineup order, those are 2 cheap guys I'm looking to target.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And it kind of leads to my value bats on DK. First guy is Zach Cozart, projected to hit first in that Cincinnati lineup. Obviously, a great sort of stack, a great team to target. They're implied for the highest team total right now at 4.7. Check that as the day goes on. It could change. And we obviously don't have lines for San Francisco and those other teams, Washington as well. But Cincinnati is obviously a good team to target, and Cozart is projected to hit first, and it's only 3-1. So it really is just opportunity. He's cheap, and he's actually been hitting the ball really well. He's got 324 WOBA against right-handed pitchers, and he actually has a hit in every game this year. He hasn't gone hitless. And so I'm not really sure why he's only 3-1. His price just hasn't bumped. For a guy who has a 324 WOBA against right-handed pitching, has a hit in every single game this year, is hitting first for a team implied at 4.7. It seems kind of really easy.
So do you mind going like Cozart, Bruce, and Votto and cash on the same team?
Oh, yeah, easy.
Yeah, I think that's Jordan Lyles. I mean, all day.
Yeah, I actually really like stacking in cash games, and this is something that Bales has actually mentioned in strategy over the last little bit, and has it in some books as well. A lot of people think that stacking kind of hurts your or maybe just makes it a little bit riskier because you're putting your eggs in one basket. But I think the data has shown, and there's been studies out there, I'll have to try to find some and link to it, that isn't necessarily true. It doesn't necessarily make it more risky, especially if you're targeting these higher total games. So I definitely don't mind going 3 guys, especially if one of them is 3-1, clearly underpriced, and going against a guy like Jordan Lyles. Yeah, I don't mind that at all for sure. I do think he is actually a little more interesting. Not more interesting, but I do think he's also interesting on FanDuel. DraftKings, you can fit 5 guys. FanDuel, you can only fit 4. And I think that people might try to get that 2 through 5 on FanDuel to get Bruce, Votto through Bruce. I know Votto's 3, but to try to get to the 5 guys. So they might leave Cozart out on FanDuel. So I like getting both of them and skipping someone. As
and Cozart. Yeah, Cozart's a great play on FanDuel and cash too as well. It's a value play.
Yeah, For sure. The other guy I like is Randall Grichuk. He just crushes the ball as well. He's really cheap. He's $3,200. He's a 281 ISO versus right-handed pitchers. So yeah, if you kind of look at his game log recently, so he 4 out of his last 5 games, he's had over 10 DK points, which is obviously very solid at his price. He had 6 points last game, just had 2 walks and didn't get a hit, but that was the first game that he didn't have a hit. And he was up at like 3-6 a couple days ago and had 23 DK points. The next game he had 16 DK points. It just really playing well, and they dropped his price to $3,200. I'm not really sure why. It's kind of a Kozar situation. Yeah. I guess the Lackey matchup is something that people might be worried about. I'm not really sure, but a guy who I think is actually a good batter, and he actually has reverse splits, meaning a right-hander has better splits against a right-hander. And a lefty has better splits against lefty. We see it more often with right-handers, but I do think it's important to note because a lot of times people will just automatically target right versus left and fade if that's not the case, where he actually has reverse splits. So I think that he's a really solid play. And like Kozart, some guy who's just kind of oddly underpriced whenever he
for sure.
So that's those are the 2 value bats I like. Let's go to stack of the day. Not to be confused with stat of the day. We're talking a stack. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, stack of the day for me. I'm looking at the Brewers. I like getting exposure to them. Pitcher in general, I don't mind getting stacking against is Phil Hughes. Led the AL in home runs last year, and out of every pitcher in the entire league who threw over 150 innings pitched, only Kyle Loesch had a higher home run rate. So Hughes, is a guy I like targeting due to his home run potential. He lowered his walk rate drastically in the last few years, but he's obviously still very susceptible to the long ball. His average fastball speed is down around 2 miles per hour lower than when he was with the Yankees. And it's similar to last year. It's barely down, but last year it decreased about 2 from the year before. Obviously, last year he led the league in home runs, so it's a spot I think you could take advantage of that. And I like the Brewers. They're implied, I think, at just 4 runs, which is pretty average on this slate. So I think a lot of people put a lot of weight in implied team totals. So when stacking, I think you'll see a bit decreased ownership for all these guys. Braun just got a day off today. He'll be back in the lineup tomorrow. So the guys I'm looking at, like the upside of Braun, Carter, Santana, Scooter, Hill, and some Lucroy as well. So kind of the 1 through 6 hitters mix and match is kind of what I'm looking for.
I like it. My stack is going to be the Reds. I know it's not really that bold of a take to say that the Reds are a good stack tomorrow. We've talked about targeting Lyles and their high team total of 4.7. That could go up or down. I don't think it'll go down too much, but I did want to mention them just because I think the stacking, how you stack them, I think is potentially interesting in tournaments. If you look at what their projected lineup is going to be, it's Kozart, then you have Suarez at the 2 spot, Votto, Phillips, and then Bruce at the 5 spot. 3 of those I think are really good plays in Kozar, Votto, and Bruce. Unfortunately, they're not next to each other in the batting order. They're 1, 3, 5. Which I think makes it actually pretty interesting and invokes some game theory and strategy decisions that you have to make, because people really like it when like the best hitters are 1 through 4, just so you can lock in those 1 through 4 spot and then optimize your lineup and give it a high upside lineup. When you have guys that are a little more spread out, then you have to make decisions. Do you include Suarez or Phillips in it? In hopes that they get on base and that Votto and Bruce can drive them in? Do you leave them out and try to contrarian and go a different third baseman? What do you do? And I actually like the idea of leaving one of them out and skipping either Suarez or Phillips. I would probably skip Suarez because I think he's really overpriced, especially on DK. He's 4,400. And if you kind of look at the red stack, all these guys, Kozart, Votto, Bruce, they all have really great ISOs. They're all over 200 against right-handed pitching, and they get Lyles. Suarez is kind of the oddball out. He's actually the most – Votto's is the most expensive, but Suarez is actually the second most expensive despite having the lowest stats out of everyone. He's 316 WOBA, 159 ISO, and 432 slugging. the worst batter out of all those guys that gets right-handed pitching, yet is the second most expensive. I think people will still include him because they want to get that full stack. But I think fading him and going a different third baseman, but still including those guys, is a really nice way to get sort of a unique red stack. That's how I'm approaching it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like it. I think when you get into these popular stacks, I think you're going to see it's a similar thing when looking at stacks as a whole. It's just at the micro level of how are they going to stack this team exactly? How can I get contrarian when everybody else is stacking this team? And that's something you absolutely have to look at for decreased ownership in some of these large field GPPs, especially. I think you get away with maybe 1 through 4, 2 through 5, or whatever in the the 1K tournaments and whatnot. But in these large fields, you're definitely going to have to get contrarian. So yeah, I like skipping guys here and there, mixing it up. And, that happens. Obviously it's not like the 1 through 4 hitters will all crush and the 5 hitter won't, or whatever. You can skip guys on any team. And, I think the low ownership is worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And the guy like Suarez probably has higher upside than normal because of the situation and the guys surrounding him. But really all you need in that situation is for another third baseman, the guy you pick, to outscore him. And then all of a sudden you have that high upside stack with Kozar, Votto, and Bruce, but you also have the uniqueness and a guy who outscored him if you take a different third baseman. Maybe Matt Carpenter. Sure. I don't know. Cool. Give me a stat of the day.
Yeah, stat of the day, just kind of looking through our advanced data, I noticed Giancarlo Stanton has the worst hard hit differential out of any hitter on this slate so far this season, which is surprising because he's the hardest hitting hitter has ever been. So, yeah, he's hitting the ball hard 34% less than last season, which is significant. It's obviously showing. He only has 8 hits this entire season. There's no doubt, of course, he's going to start obliterating the ball again. I'm not saying he's off this year or he's not going to get it back, but it's definitely interesting to see him have the same hard hit percentage as Colton Wong. So I'd like to see him hit the ball a little bit harder coming up, sometime soon before I kind of roster him, especially in cash games where I want that safety. So if he's not seeing the ball well, then that's something I think you can look at with the advanced data. And I'd let it kind of linger a bit longer before making any large decisions off him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a great application of the advanced data. I like that a lot. Mine is also has to do with our advanced data. My stat of the day is Brian Dozier has a 4.36 second air time this year, which is just ridiculous. It's not like he's crushing the ball or anything like that. He just doesn't hit any ground balls this year. He's just hitting everything into the air, into the outfield, and just it's either going out of the park or it's going into the outfield, which I think is just kind of a fun stat, but it's also indicative of that he's actually getting the ball up in the air, which is obviously good for DFS purposes. BABIP we know is a stat that kind of shows that once the ball's in the air, it's kind of luck what happens to it once it gets into the field. So I think targeting a guy who just gets the ball in the air is a good thing to have in tournaments, and he's a guy who is doing that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Who do you think has more airtime between Dozier or Aaron Gordon?
Ooh, that's a great
Probably one. Aaron Gordon, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean his all-star dunk is.
Yeah, he had way more than 4.3 seconds of airtime.
Yeah. I can't wait to have grandkids just so I can tell them about that dunk. Insane. We were together during that dunk, weren't we? In person.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Bales had some jelly beans on Gordon.
That's right.
Got robbed.
Oh yeah, that was
Mr. Run Good Pete over there, just running hot with those jelly bean wagers.
Pete always does. Man.
Absolutely. What do we got? We got the bold call of the day still.
Yeah, that's it. Man.
Okay. I'll kick mine off. My bold call of the day kind of plays into my stack where I like targeting Phil Hughes. My bold call of the day is that Chris Carter will hit a home run, possibly two, but I'm not ready to kind of make that call yet this early in the podcast season. His hard hit percentage is 55%, which is a 15% increase compared to last year, which is nice as well. And then you get Phil Hughes who serves him up, and home run.
Yeah, I noticed his advanced stats. They were popping out to me in the models as well. I thought about doing it for my stats, so I'm glad you mentioned it because definitely one that stood out in the models for sure. My bold call, and we'll end it after that, is I think there are going to be multiple teams that score 10 runs tomorrow.
I like that, man.
There's just so many bad pitchers tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just posting up and watching all the games. I want to see some runs.
Oh, I think we're going to see a lot of runs.
Everybody but the Phillies.
Yeah, they're not going to score very much.
Let everybody else eat and just home runs left and right. And
yeah,
man, I'm with you. It's a pretty rough pitching slate. We got some guys who give up some bombs.
Yeah, man. So I think we like the strategy of locking in Thor and then and get some bombs in your lineup.
Yeah.
Get money rake in.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I'll leave you guys with is that it's so important right now, this early in the season, to take advantage of this overlay. I mean, it's like you talk about building a bankroll, and it's very difficult depending on how much you start with. I mean, it's always difficult regardless, but the easiest way to kind of build your bankroll is to enter these plus EV games, whether it's a large field GPP that has a lot of overlay, double ups that are overlaying, triple ups even. I know some people just never play triple ups. They avoid them forever because they play cash game lineups and they just want to hit that top 50%. But if there's overlay, you're gaining value by playing these triple ups. Anything where you're gaining value, I think, at this point in the season, you kind of have to attack this overlay. It's a great spot to build your bankroll.
Yeah, that's a great point. And they've been overlaying fairly hard too. And these like lower, entry fee tournaments as well. I mean, the $2 FanDuel one overlaid really hard yesterday. So it's not like tournaments that it's going to take a lot to get into them. So yeah, for sure. Keep that in mind because anytime those situations happen, you're getting a lot of value just by having entering. Your room for error goes up for sure. Good call, good pod.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. And I think you're going to be with possibly a new guest for tomorrow night.
New guest tomorrow night. So we're going to do the pod. And as the schedule has changed, I guess we'll mention this real quick. As the schedule has changed, we're going to move these. So we're going to do a pod for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday slates because those are the biggest slates. The Thursday ones are going to be split now for the rest of the year. So it makes sense since we're doing the main slates to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. You're going to be off on Tuesdays, so I'll have a new guest and we'll see who it is tomorrow. But
I mean, we don't even know.
That's true.
Well, you guys will learn with us, but we'll figure it out. But good luck everybody on this slate, and until next time, we'll get with you guys with another pod.
Cool. All right. Good luck, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.